I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be why her attraction for you dropped. Well, I've got a good email here from a viewer who started out good with a woman that he was dating, but right around the time of the fifth date, things started to go sideways after that. She started out really into him, but over time, it seemed like she became less and less interested. And as we go through his email, I'm going to point out the things that he was doing wrong. They were actually turning her off, obviously unbeknownst to him. And that's one of the things that's important to understand, and I talk about this a lot, is that nature's already taken care of the attraction part. It's kind of like what Adam Carolla says. He says when a woman is interested in you, the doors start opening, and all you have to do is walk through them. But if the doors start closing in your face, then you simply walk away. And this is what happens with a lot of guys. They'll meet a girl that they really like and that they're really into and who feels the same way, and things start out great for the first couple of dates. And then as he becomes more attracted to her over time, her attraction level is actually going in the opposite direction. So before we get into it, I got a quote I'd like to share. And it says, "Women in general tend to openly wonder where have all the real men gone. They often complain that all the good ones are taken or gay. The reasons for this are most men are afraid to be leaders, act like pleasers, are afraid to be direct and ask women out, can't make decisions, they play games to mask their attraction, and often come off as manipulative, creepy, or like stalkers. The average guy often talks women right out of liking them. Attraction has already been handled by Mother Nature. If she likes you already, your job is to not talk her out of it, act like a masculine man, and court her properly so she naturally will fall in love with you over time." So let's get into this guy's email. He says, "Hey Corey, I need help with this girl I met. I met her on the internet, and after 2 dates, I knew I liked her more than any other girl I've ever met. She is fun and is talkative, and she also made me laugh. She texted me often in the upcoming week, and we texted back and forth for days." Well, that's a big part of your problem right there, is you're texting too much. And women love guys that are mysterious. If that wasn't the case, you wouldn't see women reading all of these romance novels about mysterious men. Women love to discover who you are and discover things about you slowly over time. But the proper way to do that is just like in the sales industry. If you're in sales or you know someone that's in sales, or maybe you bought a car before, you know that the person selling or trying to sell something is going to try to get you to make an appointment to come in and see them and spend time face to face, because that's how they can sell you in person. That's why car dealers don't like to give out information over the phone. They know if they give out too much information over the phone, you're just going to end up buying a car from someone else. And it's the same thing when it comes to dating. If you want her attraction for you to grow, you have to do that in person. And so you should use the phone only to set dates. And a lot of guys get in this habit of they start texting back and forth, and it's just simply a matter of time before they start, because they think, hey, this girl's texting me all the time, this is great, she's really into me, and they start talking, and that's the hard thing about texting, is when you say too much, you talk too much, you try to be funny through text, the likelihood of you saying something stupid or something that turns her off escalates dramatically. And that's what happens with a lot of guys. They literally talk so much that they talk the woman right out of liking them. He says, "On the third date, I bought her flowers and we went out for burgers and held hands and had a nice time." Well, more than likely it sounds like you held her hand but weren't, because this is always the best place to be, is to wait until the woman starts touching you. Because when it's touching is appropriate, she'll start bumping into you. She'll start reaching over and touching your arm, or standing so close to, like, literally her shoulders bumping into yours. Or as you're walking down the street side by side, her hand might start bumping your hand as the two of you are walking along side by side. And when that happens, then you can slowly reciprocate and grab her hand. It's like most guys, because they're all in their mind and they're not going with the flow of things, and they're not noticing the sense, they're not very sensory acute, if you will. They haven't developed their own sensory acuity. They start touching too much to the point where she's not actually ready for touching to happen yet, and now you're touching her, and it gets kind of creepy. So it's always best if you let the woman start touching you first, because everything that you want to do is you want to get her starting to pursue you. And that happens through texting, that happens through touching, that happens when she has to ask you personal questions about yourself, because you're not volunteering everything about yourself by being an open book. He says, on the fourth date, we went to the park and again held hands and cuddled. I want to back up. Bringing her flowers in the third date, that's something you do for your wife or your serious girlfriend, not some girl that you're going out on the third date with. Now think about this from a common sense perspective. Did she buy you any gifts? I don't think so. You should, because see, the thing is, the average guy thinks they have to do something spectacular. They have to have this big, special, amazing date, kind of like the bullshit you see in movies. And of course, the girl falls madly in love. Oh, thank you for the flowers. Thank you for the trip on the private plane and whisking me off to Hawaii and buying me a new car or buying me a diamond necklace and all this bullshit. When a guy does that, that stuff comes off as a bribe for sex. And that's the reality is, when you go out on the date, the gift is you. It's your presence. It's the fact that you're there with her and you're going to show her a good time, have fun, laugh together, hang out, have fun, and hook up, as I like to say all the time. So he says, on the fourth date, we went to the park and again held hands and cuddled and had a great time. I don't hear anything about kissing. You should, at least by the end of the first date, you should go for a kiss. But if during the middle of the date, if she's touching you and you're holding hands, it's easy just to pull her in and go for the kiss. Because as the woman starts initiating touch, then what you're going to do is escalate it to the next level. And when you start kissing, you're making out. Making out leads to heavy petting. And it's easy to just say, hey, let's get out here and grab a bottle of wine and go back to my place. Hey, let's go back to my place and have an espresso or a coffee or a tea or whatever it is that you happen to drink. That's the whole purpose of a date. She's physically attracted to you. You're physically attracted to her. And as the chemistry continues to evolve and the attraction grows, at some point the sex is going to happen. And you're obviously not going to do that in a public place. In most cases, you're going to do it back at your place or her place. And so the idea is, because at the end of the day, most women will sleep with a guy by the second or third date on average. Like I also like to say, create a fun-filled romantic opportunity for sex to happen. That's why you don't go out and do lunch dates or go to the movies and stuff like that, because then you're just kind of acting like the gay male girlfriend. You need to act like a man and be a leader and lead the interaction to a successful conclusion in the bedroom. He says, however, on the fifth date, for some reason, she was distant to me. Probably because you're talking too much on the phone at that point, and maybe you'd said something. Plus, on the previous 4 dates that you'd had with her, you were the one grabbing her hand all the time and not paying attention to the fact that she was not initiating any physical contact because you never gave her the chance to. And when a guy starts touching a woman like that all the time and holding hands and not paying attention to that, it starts to come off as being needy. It's not natural. It doesn't just flow and evolve. Because as a woman's attraction level for you grows, she's going to move herself physically closer to you so physical touching can escalate. And if you're doing all of that stuff and you're initiating all that stuff and you're not noticing that she's letting go of your hand, or if she lets go of your hand, then you grab it a minute or two later and hold it again, that's needy behavior. That communicates that you don't understand how attraction works, and it's going to turn a woman off because it starts to become creepy after a while. It starts to communicate that you don't know how attraction works. If you don't know how attraction works, obviously if you're not succeeding with her, you're obviously not succeeding with any other woman, and the woman starts to think, well, there's obviously a reason for that, and she starts to lose her level of attraction for you. He says the date started out fine, but she canceled on me at the last minute of a reservation I made for a restaurant a week before. He says she told me she wanted to go somewhere else for tofu. And he says, me being a nice guys always finish last, bro. And knowing she was stressed at work, complied. Women don't want a guy that's compliant. They want a guy who's a man. They want a guy who'll say, You know what? I think that tofu, that sounds really great, but doesn't excite me because I got reservations at this cool place that took me a week to get us in there, and I'm really excited to surprise you with. So let's go there tonight, and then some other night we'll have some tofu, and I can bring I can bring a clothespin to put on my nose because I can't stand the smell of that shit. So you say something like that. Be playful about it, but be assertive. Let her know that you got something planned, and don't tell her what it is. Just say you'll see when we get there. But this is part, because now she started to see that you're a little bit too much of a nice guy, and now she's trying to change the plans and see if she can get you to go along with it, which is what you do. Women are attracted to your strength, not your weakness. And this is happening because her attraction level is dropped. He says, me being a night... So it's like, and plus he says, oh, she's stressed at work. So it's like now he rationalizes this behavior. And in reality, the reason she's acting this way is because she's perceiving you as being weak, and now she's trying to just see if she can get away with it, which obviously she could because you complied, as you said. Remember, women are physically designed to receive a man's strength. Does it really sound strong when you're compliant? It sounds like you're being more feminine in that moment, and that's going to turn a woman off. He says, I let her pick the restaurant, let her put her name down on the table. Oh, so now you let her be the leader. Women don't want the power. They don't like that, because when that happens, you're forcing her to move into her masculine, because in essence, you're in your feminine. And that's why the sexual polarities just completely starts to evaporate. So basically now on the fifth date, she's become the man, and you have now become the submissive woman ready to receive her. Well, women are physically designed to receive. It's not the other way around. He says, during the dinner, she felt distant, crossed her arms, and no longer was holding my hand. Again, that tells me that you were too touchy-feely and you were trying to hold her hand and you were creeping her out by your behavior. He says, I was really tired that week from work and I wasn't thinking, and during most of the date, rather than being fun, I expressed insecurities about my career and came off as needy. Again, women are attracted to your strength, and now on the fifth date, now you're basically acting like a woman who's unsure of yourself. You're, like I said, you're totally in your feminine when you're acting this way. So this masculine guy that she thought she met on that first date, that she was all into and was blowing up your phone, now after on the fifth date, now you're totally acting like a woman. So it's going to turn her off. Because what's happening is she doesn't feel like she can trust your masculine core. She doesn't feel safe with you. And because she doesn't feel safe with you, she's having to move into her masculine. And now she's not going to find you attractive anymore at this point because of the way you're acting. He says, after dinner, I walked her to the train and I tried to hold her hand, but she pulled away because she said she was cold. The real reason, she just didn't want you to touch her at that point. Again, this tells me you have no sensory acuity. You don't know when it's appropriate. Like I've talked about earlier, you didn't know when to touch and when to back off and chill and let her come to you. You became the pursuer without even realizing. And this is pretty much what happens with 99% of the guys that women are going to meet. They act this way. And I talk to women all the time in my coaching practice, and this is exactly what they complain about. So he says, she also said that she was in a mood because she was PMSing or something. The real reason she was in a mood was because you weren't acting like a man. She wanted to go out with a guy who acted like a masculine man, and instead she went out with a dude who acted like a feminine woman. He says, I texted her the next 2 days to see if she was doing better. Now you're trying to be there for her. Typical nice guy behavior that never gets you anywhere. And she responded both times, although this time, again, the texting is for setting the next date. And what I teach in my book, doesn't sound like you've read my book, is that you should start out going out once a week. Now, why do you do this? Because as her attraction level for you grows, she's going to start calling and texting you and reaching out to you. She was actually already doing that stuff in the beginning, and if you would have just let her come to you, she would have been all over you. You probably would have slept with this girl by the second or third date at the latest, maybe even on the first date. But the problem was, it sounds like you were just holding hands, but there's no mention of any kissing. That tells me you're trying to be nice and be respectful, And that she starts to read that after 5 dates is that you're just weak and you don't know how to act like a man. He says, I then texted her to set up the next date, but she never got back to me. It's been 2 days so far. He says, do you think I can recover from this crappy date? And if so, what should I do in the next step? And what I would do at this point is nothing, because you've left her a message, and still in your mind you're thinking like a typical guy. I have to do something. I have to do something to make her like me more. Well, that's part of your problem. You actually did too much to the point where you did so much that you never gave her a chance for her feelings and her attraction level for you to grow. It actually went in the opposite direction. So at this point, because you've left a message for her and she hasn't responded to you, you got to wait for her. And what a lot of guys tend to do is they text her, and then 2 days go by, they haven't heard from her, and then they start texting her again. Now you're acting like a stalker. Now you're coming off as being needy. You don't want to do that. In this case, you've left a message, because remember, when you first started out, she was calling and texting you all the time. So common sense would say, you text a girl and 2 days later she hasn't texted you back. What does that tell you about her level of attraction? Has it gone up or has it gone down? Well, it's obviously gone way down at this point, because she went from perceiving you as really valuable and a guy she wanted to spend time with. That's why she was texting you all the time, and that's why things were so great in those first couple of dates. But now she doesn't perceive you as a man of value at all. She just perceives you as like the 99% of the other nice guys, needy nice guys that she meets all the time. And she's probably thinking to herself, where are the real fucking men? It's like every time I meet a nice guy, he's either gay or he's taken or he's married. He says, I was thinking of not calling her until next week to ask her out again. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do more of what's already gotten you rejected? A man who perceives himself as a catch would never do that. A guy who is needy, who doesn't feel like he deserves a great woman in his life, what's he going to do? He's going to call her next week when she hasn't returned his previous texts or phone calls. But if you're a guy who has lots of choices and lots of options, you're just going to assume, oh, maybe she's busy, maybe she's not feeling well, maybe she's got other shit going on in her life. She'll get back to me. Why? Because I'm a fucking catch. That's what always happens. Maybe it's a week or two before you hear back from her. But I'll tell you this, if I were you, I would do nothing at this point. You've already done enough. You've done way too much to the point where you've turned this girl off. So the only thing you can do at this point is wait to hear from her. And if she texts you a week or two from now, she's not going to talk about getting together or going out. Why? Because she wants you to handle that. She wants you to be the leader. But she will put herself into your orbit if she still has somewhat of a level of attraction for you. In other words, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's got to still be at least a 5. If it's dropped to a 4, you're toast, bro. You're out, and you'll never hear from her again. And so one or two things are going to happen. Either she's going to call you in the next few weeks, and then when and if that happens, hey, babe, great to hear from you. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together next? That should be your immediate response to her. Not sending 10 boring texts back and forth that never go anywhere, and then what'll happen is after you send 5 or 6 texts, she'll just disappear from the conversation and stop responding. Why? Because you didn't get to the point. And that just reconfirms to her that you don't understand how attraction works, you're not very successful with women, therefore you ain't much of a catch. You're just like every other nice guy that she's ever met. And the only way you can have a chance is to walk and never look back, because you sent her a text. You got to wait to hear from her. He says, if I do get a next date, what can I do to change her view of me and recover? Act like a man and go for the kiss. Hang back, and when you're sitting in your chair, when you're having dinner, lean back in your chair. Don't lean forward. But in the meantime, my advice to you would be to download my Kindle book. And I've just released the second edition of it a few weeks ago. And so if you would like to get the Kindle version of my ebook, you can go to my website, and underneath the email sign-up box, there's a link that will take you right to the Amazon Kindle download page for my book. Now, if you don't have a Kindle device, just download one of their free e-reader apps for whatever electronic device that you want to read my book on. And if you'd like to book a paid phone coaching session with me, an hour-long phone coaching session, you can go to my website, click the Products tab at the top of your screen, and follow the instructions. Or if you'd like to do email coaching, and get a response back from me within 24 to 48 hours, because right now, as it stands with all of the free email questions I answered, I'm answering questions from 4 or 5 weeks ago. So if you have something that you need to hear back from within 24 to 48 hours, a quick email answer, select the option for email coaching. But if you've got a situation that's more in depth, book an hour-long phone coaching session so I can really help you fine-tune and tweak your game. Or if you need help figuring out what your purpose is in life, or you want to lose weight, or you want to turn your business around, or you've got other challenges and things that you'd like to get my help with, book a paid phone coaching session. And I will talk to you soon.